Sal Capaccio in to update us on the Buffalo Bills, what was said at practice yesterday, at media session, injury reports, all that good stuff ahead of Bills-Browns. Sal, good morning.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Good. It feels like we haven't talked in a while, and I'm realizing it's because as we got to the normal Sunday, that you get some time off in the middle of the week, from us at least, you know? Like, we don't have to talk every Tuesday or necessarily Wednesday. When we were doing those Mondays and Thursdays, like, we were doing it all the time. So a nice Sunday cadence has returned.
Yeah, we knew that the Bills would have a bit more of a routine here for a while, just playing on Sundays, and then they had the one game was flexed from 4:30 to 1, obviously, 4:25 to 1, but you're right. It's just Sunday. Now, the NFL is a little different, though, starting this week. 2 Saturday games this week, guys. You know that, right? There's going to be two Saturday games this week. Eagles at Commanders at 5 o'clock. Packers at Bears at 8:20, which is huge Saturday night.
Yeah. 2 big ones, which is good. That's good. And it's funny, Sal, we were going over this yesterday. I think this is the latest in the season without any single division being clinched. Like, this far in, no one is clinched. The Broncos are the only team that can clinch, I believe. Maybe the Eagles, too. Broncos and Eagles can clinch this weekend, and no one else will clinch.
Yeah, it's a good point. Didn't think about that. I did see. I'm looking at the standings right now. Oh, the Bills, they can clinch this week too. A playoff spot. I meant the division though. I know, but the Bills can clinch a playoff spot this week if they win, and either Indy or Houston loses, I believe, or ties.
Yep.
But you're right about that. It is interesting you say that. I tweeted something out yesterday. It was really interesting that I've gotten so many really interesting responses on about the proposal the Lions made last year.
Yeah.
That was teams should be seeded only by record. You would still get in automatically if you win your division, so it wouldn't change the field, but you then would just seed everybody by record and not by the 4 division winners automatically get a home game. Because the reason I tweeted it out is this year, the AFC North champ is most likely going to have at least like 2 less wins than all 3 wildcard teams.
Yep.
Yet they're going to host one of them. Same thing's going to happen in the NFC with the NFC South. So it's pretty interesting.
I'm supportive of that, Sal. I also think it would the net result could be that the end of the season is better because, sure, all the division races are still there. And now, you get it sometimes where that last division winner, or like Houston was this last year. Their last game didn't matter, right? Because, you're locked into the 4 seed here. Instead, you might have the 4 seed, as it stands now, motivated to try to get a home game that they don't earn yet. You can still earn a home game by being one of the 4 best teams and keep the playoff field the same. You can go ahead and guarantee a spot. Nate and I were joking that the college football playoff is like the other end of the spectrum, where for a minute there it looked like they're like, you know what? Yeah, sure, you won the ACC, but maybe we won't bring anybody from your conference to our championship, So, like, The college football playoff, as it is, messed up maybe, that's about the best teams regardless of conference to a point. And the NFL, they're just still really, driving up the divisional value. So I don't anticipate a change. I don't know if you were at owners' meetings last year. Is there a swell of support for that, or you think that's still DOA for a while?
There was some momentum, we actually thought. And then there was somebody who proposed, well, if you have to have at least a 500 record, I think there was something about that. Yeah. So it was interesting. Most of the response I got are not in favor of it. But I would tell you, it's so funny. Most of the responses I got were, well, winning the division should still mean something. I'm like, well, it still would. You would still get into the playoffs by winning your division. That still means a ton, right? Like, it's not like you're winning your division wouldn't mean anything. So I just think it's interesting because you just brought up that, the division winners right now, there is nobody that's clinched a division. So it's just really interesting. I wonder if it does get brought up this year once again, whether that be by the Lions or even the Bills or a team like the Chargers or the Texans, or a team that, is going to possibly be hurt by this.
Yep. Sal Capaccio on the Western Hotline as we get ready for Bills-Browns. Sal, the injury report. Let's do that first. The Barnes Firm injury report brought to you by the Barnes Firm. Injured, call 1-800-8-million. Sal, should we just kind of expect to see Dalton Kincaid on the injury report each and every week at this point? Like, he's going through something. We kind of maybe know that, right? So Kincaid, knee, I'm just going to prepare myself for that every week.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I would say that for sure. I think what gets you a little this week was a little bit more eye-raising, I guess, though, thinking about that is he was not given to us as a name by Sean McDermott before we went to practice yesterday, or at least before they practiced. We didn't watch because it's a walkthrough. Sean McDermott ran through the names yesterday, and he told us that the only 2 people who wouldn't practice were going to be Jordan Phillips and Matt Prater. Now, they've already been ruled out of the game. We know that. And then he said everybody else, will be out there in some capacity, basically. And that included Christian Benford, which is really good news, obviously, right? We can get to him. Well, then after practice, we get the injury report, and Deion Dawkins with an illness didn't practice, so, that can happen. And then it's Dalton Kincaid with the knee. And because Sean didn't give that name, I think that raises eyebrows. And you're like, wait a minute, what's going on? But I agree in the big picture, Jeremy, that it's probably just kind of normal that he's going to be on the injury report. I think the question is simply going to be if he's going to practice or be limited on most days as they manage through it.
How much did that hamper him last year? And should we look at it like the same way, where his snap counts might be down? Are they? I guess what I want to ask here is, are they more prepared to, I don't know, lighten his load as a result? And then we get to the playoffs, maybe it kind of ramps back up?
I am wondering the same thing, which is, are his snap counts related to this? I would have to think they might be. I mean, he's really good this year catching the football. He's really good at, some of the, metrics of routes run and stuff like that, yards per route run. And he was the number 3 tight end as far as snap counts last week. Both Dawson Knox and Jackson Hawes outsnapped him. Now, it's also possibly and probably because those guys are better blockers and you don't have to use them when you're leaning into the run game as much. I get it. But I just wonder if as we go through the rest of the season here, especially the next 3 weeks before the playoffs, if this is going to be something that they're just managing him every week to make sure that he stays healthy as much as possible and his snap counts are a little lower.
Mecole Hardman's practice window opening yesterday, Sal,
Yep.
his 21-day window, hasn't been activated yet, at least from what I've seen. Have you gotten any clues as to what the plan is there? I think it complicates their roster numbers in terms of receivers at 7.
It does. From the standpoint of just having numbers, I agree, Nate. Now, if you just want to put him in a separate bucket like a Brandon Codrington, right, even though he's a DB, you just want to put him in a separate bucket and say, well, he's not really a receiver. He's just going to be a return man. You could do that. But he did actually have a couple of snaps at wide receiver when he played that one game when he got hurt. And they already are, they only activated 5 wide receivers last game. Excuse me. So I just wonder, where he fits in on the roster as far as numbers are concerned, because I think last week there's a good debate on Gabe Davis versus Keon Coleman and why Gabe was the guy that was out and not Keon Coleman and who should it be. Well, the bigger picture is they have 6 wide receivers as it is. You add Mecole Hardman to the mix, now you have 7 wide receivers. So I agree with you. You could simply say he doesn't count. We're counting him as just a guy totally different, totally separate as a wide receiver, and that's fine, but he's still on there, and they are going to have to make a roster move if and when he does get activated. So he did begin his 21-day window, which means the team has 21 days to activate him. I wouldn't be surprised if it's this weekend, though. I mean, the Bills are last in the league in punt return yardage. They're they're first or second in kickoff return yardage. They have Ray Davis is leading the league now in kick return average, but punt returns is still hurting them as far as field position. And I think it's just an area they really want to make sure they're better at heading into the playoffs.
It's funny because I was going to ask you, how much does Ray Davis's last couple of games maybe complicate that decision? But to your point, I think it's more a question about punt return. And I also think, too, Sal, there's probably an argument to be made the ideal situation is not having Khalil Shakir returning punts going into the playoffs.
Probably right. I agree with that. And I think that the plan was to not have that anyway a few weeks ago, and then Hardman got hurt. You know what I mean? So they had to go back to that. So that's probably right. And yeah, Ray Davis doesn't really impact what's happening at punt return. It's funny, when I tweeted out the other day, Ray Davis, leads the league in kick return average. A lot of people asked me, well, if he's so good at it, why can't he return punts? And I asked him this yesterday, and I was ready for the answer. I knew the answer. I generally said what I believe, which is they're 2 totally separate skill sets. But I said to Ray Davis yesterday, hey, everybody asks me, if you're so good at kick returns, what about punt returning? I went back and looked. He never had a punt return in college or the NFL. And he's like, yeah, it's totally different. It's like, yeah, you could probably do it. I could, practice it and do it. But it's something, if you've never done it before, that's a really different deal.
Yeah, it's interesting, how the new kickoff format has, Sal, you wonder if teams will get an advantage like the Bills have with these Ray Davis returns. Would you expect that to I mean, dry up might be a little bold here, but, as teams see what they're doing on film, like, all right, here's what they do. For a while, kickoffs had gotten, kind of stale. Maybe that's just to the layperson. And now the innovations, the things that a coach like Chris Tabor can kind of introduce, could be matchup specific. We're seeing the reintroduction of value in kickoffs and kick returns, and it's changed the way the game is being played. For
sure. And, it was a good point that we talked about, with Ray again yesterday, and how, and with Reggie Gilliam, that they basically show up to the facility on Monday and Tuesday, and as the week's going on, and Chris Tabor basically goes, okay, here's what we're thinking this week. What do you think about this? And they look like, oh yeah, that's really cool. Like, it's totally a surprise. They don't know. They're creative with it. They're coming up with new things, new wrinkles. You saw that last week. And, Reggie Gilliam as a lead blocker in front of Ray Davis, and then Alec Anderson as a lead blocker in front of Ray Davis, it's really no different than them running a run play. They just have more space, but, they're basically using them as lead blockers on ISO, like I formation and going through the hole. So it's super interesting how these guys and these special teams coordinators are trying to kind of figure out new wrinkles and new things to do. And I'm interested to see what the Bills do this week if they're going to try anything different.
Yeah. Sal, do you think we could be entering any sort of load management time for, let's just start with one player, James Cook, right? You want to make sure your best players are ready for the playoffs. They have not yet clinched their spot. They could do that with a win. But is that on the table, you think?
I don't know. He's going for the rushing title. Okay. I mean, I think, guys, though, the team will do what's best for the team. Remember when James Cook had that rushing, the touchdown record at stake last year? Remember they took him out of the game and then they put him back in against the Patriots? Do you remember that? That happened week 18 last year. He wasn't going to play, but then they got near the goal line. They put him back in. Isn't that how it went down? And then he broke the Bills rushing touchdown record because they did that. So I think that they understand. They have those accolades in mind. They'll still do what's best for the team. As far as load management, I don't know. James, he leads the league. I think he's one carry shy, maybe even of Jonathan Taylor, and leading the league in rushing attempts. I was stunned by that this year when I looked at that, because I just didn't think that would happen with James Cook. Right? He's a smaller running back. He doesn't take a ton of shots, but I don't know, Jeremy. It's a good question. I don't think that they're going to necessarily start taking him off the field. They need to win games here.
Yeah.
That's the other part about it. Like, they're still alive. As long as the division is still in play, I don't think there's any load management going on for anybody.
Can I ask you something? I'm just thinking of, like, in this moment about, like, a smaller running back. So a lot around the league has been about how offenses have decided to get bigger, right? 3 tight ends, and your receivers, of course, have to block. But, like, the Bills are one of these teams. The Rams are one of these teams. Last year, the Ravens are one of these teams. Could it be that a smaller back might be able to flourish just because as offenses get bigger and now defenses have to get bigger, that I don't need the punishing back. What I need is the elusive back to get through, like, that thicker defense instead of, like, whatever. I'm just feeling like what Cook does.
Yeah,
when we watch him, we watch him slither, and it's really amazing to watch him find these holes where maybe a larger guy wouldn't find those holes.
Yeah, and I have it in front of me. 272 attempts for Jonathan Taylor, 271 for James Cook. So he's one attempt behind. He's only 28 rushing yards behind the title right now, by the way, the leader in the league. To your to your point, Jeremy, the other part, 100% right. But I would also say it's because the Bills run a lot of inside zone. It's basically James Cook picks his hole. You know what I mean? Like, that helps too. You're not running ISO. What ISO is, it's isolation. It's you taking a fullback and running right at a linebacker and just going, you follow this guy into the hole and we're going big boy football. Yeah, you can run that, but that's not what he's doing. They run a lot of inside zone, which is, okay, we're going to have lead blockers, but you're going to pick your hole on when you want to, in the cutback lanes and all those kinds of things. That's what James Cook does. And, when you watch him run, he took a couple shots last week, but he generally doesn't take these really big shots. He understands how to get down. He understands how to move his body around. So, yeah, I was surprised. If you would have told me coming in the year that James Cook would be near the league lead in rushing attempts, I'd be like, what? No way. I would never believe that. But, he's earned it this year, and he's 28 yards off right now being the league leader in rushing.
Sal Capaccio joining us on the Worcester Hotline. Myles Garrett, Sal, having one of the all-time great seasons, went through some of the numbers yesterday that sacks per pass he's the best ever right now. Like this season dwarfs really any other season, even the Strahan season or Reggie White season in 1987. Garrett's been incredible. The Bills, talking about him, I saw Spencer Brown had a funny comment about this. Like, he hopes it doesn't happen, but if the record-breaking sack is on him, like, I get to tell my kids that someday. Like, that's me getting roasted by Myles Garrett. So it feels like the Bills have like this, offensive linemen always, to what I hear, seem to praise him. Like, they appreciate Garrett as not only a great player, but a player that they like. It seems like there's a lot of respect for him around the league.
Yeah, in fact, I'll tell you this, guys. Deion Dawkins has consistently said in his time in the NFL since Myles Garrett came in, and he's been in here together, Deion Dawkins has consistently said that Myles Garrett is the toughest guy for him to block. I was at an event with Deion just a few months ago. Someone asked him this very question: "Who's the toughest guy you have to block?" And he said, "It's Myles Garrett." And he goes, "Ask my wife. She knows this. I say about it all the time." It's kind of funny. And I think that he is really highly regarded. And here's the other part about it: Myles Garrett's a complete player. We talk all about the sacks, and he is amazing at what he does, sacking the quarterback, and he might shatter the record, right? I mean, he's a sack and a half shy of the single season record. The guy I think he wants to get to like 25, right? Which is amazing. But guys, he's great against the run too. I mean, he's a complete player. He plays everything. He is a fantastic, and he's getting better, it seems like, as he's getting older. Josh Allen was asked about the same thing about what if it happens against you? And he said, I like highlight tapes and I don't like being on other people's highlight tapes. Josh doesn't want to get sacked by Myles Garrett for the all-time, show the record breaker. And no tackle wants to have that happen to them. But if it happens, it's not like they did anything wrong necessarily, right? This is a guy that's doing it to everybody. And Josh Allen and Myles Garrett are both going in the Hall of Fame someday. So it's not like it would be part of a legacy. But sure, you want to avoid that. You know how you avoid it if you're the Bills? You run the ball really well. You keep the Browns off balance, and you don't let Myles Garrett, tee off because Josh Allen has to take 5-step drops.
So safe to say we're not going to see a Brett Favre, Michael Strahan situation?
I don't think so, Nate. That's right. And the other, we're not going to see that. The other thing is there's 3 games left. If Myles Garrett doesn't get it this week, he's probably still going to get it before the end of the season. So in that particular, because I've heard people talk about this, it's funny, Nate. In that particular situation, that was the last game of the year, and there wasn't much time left. It was the second half. So it was like, well, he either gets it now or he doesn't, and Brett Favre, took the dive, basically. So, and every time I think about that, I think about Mark Gastineau being very mad at Brett Favre when he confronted him.
Sal Capaccio joining us on the Western Hotline. Finally, Sal, Shedeur Sanders is the quarterback in Cleveland. It's been a season where they're talking about his growth. I heard Daryl Ryder on the afternoon show say that he would be interested in seeing a little bit more of Sanders next year, that he's not been great, but there are some moments in there. There are some throws. I think what Daryl said yesterday was there are some throws I haven't seen Browns quarterbacks make in a while. So maybe I don't even want to go puncher's chance because I think the Browns' chances are actually below that. But Sean McDermott against rookie quarterbacks, is this one of those times to bust out that stat where he just flat out often does not lose to rookie quarterbacks?
Yeah, we were looking it up yesterday. I don't have it in front of me. I think maybe we got to 16-4 or something like that against rookie quarterbacks.
Okay.
Something like that. It's a really good record. And even the second-year quarterback in Drake May, look at how much I think Drake May was a bit confused last week in the second half because the Bills did a lot of things that he wasn't prepared for, didn't see, and they didn't have a counter to it, and he was kind of holding on to the ball too long. But I do think there's a game for that. You have to do whatever you can. You're still alive for the division. You're still trying to get a playoff spot. You're trying to clinch playoffs this week. I mean, that's a goal for the Bills this week, right? You win this game, and if something goes your way in the Houston, and if Houston loses or Indy loses, you clinch a playoff spot, right? I said division, but you clinch a playoff spot. And I think that's a really big deal. So, yeah, what are you going to do? You're going to come up with a game plan to try and make sure you win this game and get it home. Get home to your fans next week and celebrate, that you've clinched a playoff spot and maybe the division is still alive. In fact, it would be still alive no matter what. So, yeah, I think that's what you do against Shedeur Sanders. I think you confuse him as much as possible. Don't let him know what he's looking at. And I agree. I like some of the throws that I've seen from Shedeur. He's a really good athlete. Obviously, we know the bloodlines. We know the story. Very polarizing player coming into the league. That being said, I think just from a start of the game to end of the game, I don't think he's had over 55% completions other than one game. One game, I think he had over 55. He doesn't have a high completion percentage. They are not running the ball very well, guys. So they don't have a real good, compliment to him. They're not protecting him with the run game very much. Remember a few years ago when the Browns were like this incredible offensive line running the ball? Well, that's pretty much gone now. They're not doing that like they used to. And their receivers are good, but they're not having the best year. So I think this is a game where you need to confuse the rookie quarterback as much as possible.
Very good. Sal Capaccio on the Wester Hotline. Thanks, Sal.
You got it, guys.
Bills and Browns, Sunday, 1 o'clock, and that's Sal's update. I have some instant trivia when we get back for you guys based on the Jonathan Taylor pursuit of a second consecutive rushing title. If Taylor wins it, he'd go back-to-back. James Cook is on his heels. Cook also does lead the league in yards over expected rushing this season. So credit to him for that. 803-0550, 1-888-550-2550. Bills and Browns, Sunday, 1 o'clock. We'll get to instant trivia, get to the 8 o'clock hour. Paul Hamilton joins us, previewing tonight's Sabres and Flyers game. We've got Tom Brady talking again about how he could still play. So we might have some fun with that. It's all coming up here on WGR.